بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين ورحمة الله للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All the praise and all the glory is due to Allah, and I bear witness that there is no God worthy of being worshipped but Allah, and Muhammad is his last prophet and messenger. May the blessings and peace of Allah be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and those who follow his path up to the day of judgment. My dear respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new session of Umdat al-Ahkam. In today's session, we will talk about wiping over the leather boots, or al-mashu ala al-khuffayn. Al-mashu ala al-khuffayn, or wiping over the leather boots, before starting with the hadith of al-Mughira and the other hadiths, I need to emphasize that there are certain conditions and prerequisites for wiping over the leather boots. The first condition, which has been stipulated by the scholars, is that it should be a boot, according to a difference between the Shafi'iyya and the Hanabila, because the Hanabila also extended their socks to be wiped over. But both of them agree that these socks, or these thick socks, or at least the boots, are resisting in the sense that a person can walk on and move around. The second condition is that they must be dressed or put on after completing the state of purity, or after making full wudu. So if a person puts them on before finishing his wudu, as we will explain for sure, his putting on of the leather boots and wiping over them again is not permissible. The third condition is that those boots or leather boots must be pure and clean, in the sense that they don't have any najasa on them. This is based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that when he was offering prayer with his Sahaba, and Jibreel came down while the Prophet ﷺ was making salah, and he informed him to put off his shoes because they have najasa or qadar. The fourth condition is we can wipe over the leather boots only if a person invalidates his ablution, like committing something or making something of the minor state of ritual impurity. Okay, what about if a person has to make a janaba, or a person, he has a janaba, or he has to make a ritual bath? Can he make his ritual bath and afterwards wipe over the leather boots? Can he do this, brothers and sisters? No, he cannot. He must make a full ghusl. So he must take them off if there is a state of janaba and he would like actually to make ghusl. So the wiping over is continuously done, provided that a person doesn't have a janaba. This is proved through the authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of Safwan ibn Assal, that the Prophet ﷺ commanded us not to take off our shoes when we are travelers for 3 consecutive days and nights, except when we have a state of janaba. Okay. The fifth condition is that it should be within the designated time, and the designated time according to Sharia is for a resident is 1 day and night, and for a traveler it is 3 consecutive days and nights. This is briefly the basic conditions. I wanted to elaborate them before discussing the issue of how to calculate. The calculation of the period is you start calculating from the first time you invalidate your ablution. Okay, so imagine, Brother Muhammad, now you made full wudu. Okay, Brother Muhammad and Abu Abdullah, you made full wudu. What time is it now, Brother Muhammad? It is 11 p.m. in Australia, mashallah. So Brother Muhammad is very accurate. 10:58, sharp. So 11 o'clock, Muhammad and Abu Abdullah put on their socks or their leather boots. Okay. So now, after a while, he made full wudu, and after full wudu, he put on the socks at 8 in the morning. But Brother Muhammad, he's still having wudu. You understand what I'm saying? So Brother Muhammad has made wudu. He remained keeping his wudu up to 1 a.m. Okay, 1 a.m. in the morning. And before going to bed, Brother Muhammad, he what? He put on his socks. You understand what I'm saying? And then Brother Muhammad started to sleep at 2 o'clock. And he waked up for Fajr. And he made wudu again. And after making wudu, what did he do? When he reached his feet, what did he do? He wiped over the feet, right? He wiped over the leather boots. When? It was at 6 in the morning, 6 morning for Fajr prayer. Okay, Brother Muhammad, Brother Abu Abdullah, he did the same like him. I'm asking both Brother Muhammad and Abdullah, when you are supposed to wash your feet and no longer wipe over the leather boots? This is the question. Can anybody answer? You chose Brother Muhammad Kaput and Brother Abu Abdullah to wipe over the leather boots. So you are the ones to answer this question. Can you answer? When you are supposed to take off your shoes, is it from the time that you started your wudu, first wudu, which was at 11 o'clock? Or it is the time you are residents? You put on the khuffayn, or from the time? No. According to the Shafi'i school of law, and I think this is a majority of Muslim scholars, that it is from the hadath. When you put on your shoes, the first time you invalidate your wudu by going to bed at 1 o'clock, you start counting, because this is the time you will need to practice the rukhsah. When you invalidate your wudu, you can wash the hands and the face, hands, wipe over the head, and instead of washing the feet, you just wipe over them. You understand? So when you break your wudu, this is the time that you count your the مسح على الخفين. Let us now move to the hadith of المغيرة بن شعبة رضي الله عنه. قال: كنت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر، فأهويت لأنزع خفيه، فقال: دعهما فإني أدخلتهما طاهرتين، فمسح عليهما. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah said, I was in the company of the Prophet ﷺ on a trip, and he performed ablution. So I rushed to take off his leather socks. He said, leave them, because I put them while in a state of purity. Then he wiped over them. From this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we can understand many juristic issues. On the top of them, he says, once I was in the company of the Prophet ﷺ on a trip, and the scholars, according to the hadith of Imam Ahmad and Abu Dawood, they mentioned that it was on the occasion of the Battle of Tabuk, when the Prophet ﷺ traveled, and Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah accompanied the Prophet ﷺ. He said, I rushed to take off his leather socks. I'm talking about who is rushing to take off the leather socks of the Prophet ﷺ. Who is that person? Brothers and sisters, you follow up with me? What's his name? His name is Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, my brothers and sisters, he the chieftain of his family and tribe. He belongs to one of the noblest clans of Thaqif. But he humbly sits on his knees and he looks at the shoes of the Prophet ﷺ, rushing to take them off. Behind the juristic lessons that we derive from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we also learn adab. Look how he is kneeling down, sitting on his knees, and he is trying to take off the shoes of the Prophet ﷺ. This is a sense of humbleness, noble characteristic of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. He is not proud, he is not arrogant, he is not putting his nose in the, sticking his nose to the sky, as many people are dying, and many young brothers and sisters. So don't be that arrogant when you deal with your parents, when we deal with our elderly, when we deal with our scholars. We need to understand the adab, because this is a value that the Sahaba got from the Prophet ﷺ, from the companionship of the Prophet ﷺ. They disregarded their nobility, their status, their wealth, their personalities, and they showed the highest degrees of mannerism. Brother Muhammad is applying it literally, subhanallah. So that's go for sure, Brother Muhammad, barakallahu fi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provide you with the birr, and also provide all brothers and sisters with the birr of their fathers and mothers. Ameen. So he said, leave them, for I had put them on while I was in a state of purity. Alaykum as-salam. Leave them, for I had put them on while I was in a state of purity. So in this quotation, the Prophet ﷺ is giving us guidance on the first condition of wearing or putting on the leather boots. The Prophet explained that the reason he did not allow Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah to take off his leather socks or boots is that he had put them on while he was in a state of wudu. The scholars in Sharia, they use the word fa. Fa means that there is a it's consecutive. The Prophet ﷺ, or fa means actually it shows the cause. So the Prophet ﷺ showed Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah that he does not like to take off the leather boots simply because he put them in a state of purification. So the first condition for having the leather boots is that it must be put on in a state of full tahara. On full what? Full tahara. So the first condition is it must be in a state of purity. This is the reason that if a person puts on the shoes before finishing his wudu, how can we deal with him? If a person put these shoes, my brothers and sisters, and he did not finish his wudu, is it possible? Like, give me an example. Like, for example, brother Abu Abdullah, he performed, he is, yani alhamdulillah, he's following the Hanafi school flow. So he washed his feet first before his face. And then he put on the shoes or the boots. And afterwards, he washed his hands, his face, wiped over his head. Why? Because the Hanafiya, they do not make a condition, they do not put it as a condition. Or, for example, another issue or another example, when Abu Abdullah completed his wudu until he reached the first right foot. So he washed the first foot and put on the socks, and afterwards he washed the second foot, and then he put on the socks. You understand what I'm saying? You understand the last example? Everybody understands this? Okay. So is it permissible for him or not? Because we are now faced with the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which says, فَإِنِّي أَدْخَلْتُهُمَا طَاهِرَتَيْنِ, I put them while I was in a state of purity. Here comes disagreement among scholars. Exactly as Malak saying that it is not, he is not in its complete state of purity. The jurists actually differed about this issue. We have the Hanafi scholars, Imam Thawri and al-Tabari and Abu Dawood and even Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, and one of the two variant versions of Imam Ahmad. They said that it is permissible and there is no problem about it. Imam Malik and Imam Shafi and Ahmad, they went to the other direction by saying, no, it is not permissible since he doesn't have a state of full absolution, as the brothers and sisters said. It is why? Because it must be put on in a state of full and complete absolution. If a person washes his first foot, it means that he did not actually complete his absolution, right? Still, this is a reason that they said that's not acceptable in this case. So according to them, one who puts on a leather socks before washing one foot has to redo it after the completion of his absolution by washing both feet again. There are three reasons for the disagreement. As I agreed with you at the beginning, that we try to go into these disagreements to understand how they use the texts of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. And this is one of the goals of our course, as you know. So number one is the ambiguity of the Prophet saying, I have put them on while I was in a state of wudu. Why? Because this statement is equivocal. It's ambiguous. It doesn't show whether he completed. What does he mean by full state of pollution? Is it full state of pollution of the first feet, or of each limb of pollution, or it is a complete in the sense that all limbs have been washed already? So it may be interpreted to mean that he had put his leather socks on after washing both feet, or he put each sock on after washing each foot. This is the reason of their disagreement. You understand what I'm saying? So this is the first reason of their disagreement. What is the second reason? The second reason is a sequential order. But if we elaborate on this also, we have many ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ, such as the report of Abu Bakr, that the Prophet ﷺ gave permission for the traveler to wipe over leather socks for 3 days and nights, and for a non-traveler for a day and night, if he had put them on in a state of wudu. So the Prophet ﷺ used them, which means what? Both of them after washing both feet. You understand what I'm saying? And also the Prophet gave permission for the traveler to wipe over his leather socks for 3 days. So we mean that there are some other ahadith of the Prophet ﷺ which cleared this ambiguity on the side of the Jumhur or on the side of the Hanafis. For the side of the Hanafis or for the side of the Jumhur? I'm asking you. So we have many ahadith which clarify the meaning for. Can anybody answer? For whom? For the Jumhur or for the Hanafi scholars? For the majority or the Hanafi? You follow up with me, brothers and sisters? For the sake of the majority. Exactly. For the majority. Exactly. The second reason of their disagreement is a sequential order. Is it necessary to have sequential order of washing limbs in ablution or not? According to Imam Abu Hanifa, he held the view that it's not obligatory. Therefore, one can wash his left foot before the right, and he can wash his feet before washing his face, etc. This is the reason he doesn't care about the sequential order, and based on that, it's permissible to wash the first foot and then put on, and then the last and the second, and then put on. The third reason for the disagreement is, can we regard the acts of pollution as independent and separable? Which means that you can say that if you deal with the lamps of pollution as independent parts, so you have an intention to remove the state of ritual impurity when you wash your face, and after you washing it you have an intention for removing the state of ritual impurity from your lamps, and then you have an intention to remove the state of ritual impurity from your right first foot. You understand what I'm saying? So if we regard that each limb of a pollution is independent, so we mean that you have already made tahara for your right foot before putting it on, and you don't have to wait until you wash the second. You understand? But if you regard a pollution or a state of tahara is a whole and it's inseparable, so theoretically we say that you cannot be regarded as tahir, pure, and qualified to make prayer until you finish all the components of your wudu. And this is so basically you can see that the view of the majority is given preference in this case. You understand? The reason is that because the dalil supports them more. Even an Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, he supported the view of the Hanafi scholars in this issue, though he is a Hanbali, as you know. But he supported one of the views of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Okay, The next question is wiping permissible upon performing dry ablution? Is wiping. So when the Prophet ﷺ said, I have put them on in a state of ritual purity. So does it mean if I make tayammum, can I also wipe over my leather boots afterwards when I make tayammum again, or when I make wudu again? So it depends. There is a disagreement among scholars. The Prophet ﷺ, number one, there are the majority of Muslim scholars, they said that tayammum is not like wudu. Tayammum is not like wudu. Why? Because tayammum is deficient. The purification through tayammum is not complete. A person he cannot actually remove the whole state of ritual impurity by making tayammum, but he just or is given a concession, a reason by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a practice to do, so that he is qualified to go and to make his prayers on time. So the purification acquired through tayammum is not equal to the purification acquired through wudu. You understand it? So tayammum does not really uplift the state of ritual impurity. And also, one of those reasons is that why do you wipe over the leather boots? I'm asking you this question. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it for us to wipe over the leather boots or the shoes or the socks? Why? What is the reason? Can anybody answer? What is the wisdom behind this act? The wisdom behind it, can anybody answer this question? What is the wisdom behind wiping over the leather boots? Why do we do this? And why the Prophet ﷺ enacted this? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted us to wipe over the leather boots? The reason is, it is to make it easy for us to practice our religion, to practice our rituals, because it would be difficult to take off your shoes all the time. So in the case of tayammum, we already have the concession. We don't have to wash our feet. You understand what I'm saying? You just wipe over, and you don't have actually to do this. So even you can make tayammum also when you don't need actually to take off or to put on your socks or leather boots when you are making tayammum, because it's not necessary actually. You don't wipe over your feet. You understand what I'm saying? This is a reason that's not effective. It's not effective in this case. You just, if you are making tayammum, it doesn't need actually you to wipe over and to take off or to put on, because necessarily when you each time you make. But the only difference here comes if you are actually making tayammum and afterwards the time it becomes accessible for you. So should you wipe over your feet, or you have to wash it in the next wudu? You understand what I'm saying? So in this case, according to the majority of the Muslim scholars, it is not necessary. It is not possible, and you have to wash your feet in a state of wiping over the leather boots in this case. Why? Because tayammum is not like wudu. And this is a view of the massive majority of the Muslim scholars. You know, the Hanafi scholars, they said that tayammum is like wudu, it replaces wudu, and this is the view also of the Zahiriyya, and it functions exactly like wudu, because the Prophet ﷺ called it wudu. He says, as-sa'idu tahiru wudu al-mu'min. The pure and clean earth is the ablution. It is the ablution, or it is the wudu of the believer. Then he wiped over them. The ruling concerning wiping over leather socks while performing ablution instead of washing the feet is a concession. It's a rukhsa, which is permitted by the Sharia. It is proven through the Quran, Hadith, and unanimous agreement of Muslim scholars, though it is an issue mostly discussed in the books of fiqh. But the question here, so the legality of wiping over leather socks is well known among scholars of Sharia, to the extent that even the scholars moved this issue from fiqh to the realm of aqidah by making it one of the principles of Ahl Sunnah, simply because the people, the Shia, they don't actually wipe over their leather boots, they just wipe over their feet when they are making ablution. You understand what I'm saying? So the question is raised here, which is better? When you have the concession or the rukhsa of wiping over your boots, is it better or highly recommended or preferable to wipe over the leather boots or to wash the hands, the feet? The Shafi'i had the view that washing is more preferable on that condition, on the condition it is not performed out of disdain of the Quran, of the Prophet's Sunnah, or an imitation of deviant sects who rejected wiping. So the view of the Shafi'i scholars is that it's preferable to act upon the rukhsa, it's preferable to wash the hand, the feet, because this is original. This is a basic rule, if you are able to do this. Provided that you don't do this out of doubt about the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because the Prophet ﷺ had a sunnah which should be followed, and you shouldn't actually imitate the Shia in this case. The Hanbali, on the other side, they preferred wiping to washing feet. Why? What is the reason? They based their view on the general statement of the Prophet ﷺ, إن الله يحب أن تؤتى رخصه كما يحب أن تؤتى عزائمه. Allah loves His concessions to be accepted as He loves His ordinances to be performed. So out of accepting the concession, the permission that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given out of mercy for His ummah, for the ummah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is to apply this rukhsah. And this is the view of the Hanbali scholars. Ibn al-Qayyim concluded that the Prophet ﷺ used to do things spontaneously. In case it happened that he found his feet uncovered, he used to wash them. In case he put on his leather socks after performing ablution, he would wipe over them. And this is the conclusion, and this is, I think, the best view to be followed. You take it normal, regular. So if you have the opportunity to wipe over because you have your socks on. If you don't have your socks on, so you just wash your feet. Another question about this hadith, what is the area to be wiped in the leather socks or the leather boots? Scholars have also defined the area to be wiped, and the report and the discussion, the report of Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, is that it's obligatory to wipe over the upper part of the leather socks. According to the version related by At-Tirmidhi and Ibn Majah, the Prophet ﷺ wiped over the upper and the lower parts of the leather socks. By the upper part, I mean that the area extending from the fingers all the way to the joint of your feet. How to wipe over? You just have wet water on your fingers and you come over. You come like scumming. You know, when you comb your beard or you comb your hair, it's the same. You pass your fingers on, all your fingers separated on your leather boots. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. But if you wipe over, imagine if somebody is wiping over the lower part of the shoes or the leather boots. Is it sufficient? I'm asking you this question. Is it sufficient from your perspective, from your view? No, it is not sufficient. Why? Because even Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu ta'ala anhu talked about this. He says, if our religion goes by logic or by common sense, so it would be actually more sufficient to wipe the lower part of the leather boots than the upper part. But the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ it is to wipe over that. So if a person wipes over the upper part and the lower part, in this case, it is sufficient. But if a person just wipes over the lower part, as you mentioned, that would be not sufficient. So this is a statement of mentioned in the Reliance of the Traveler by Ibn Naqib. He says that it's sunnah to wipe the footwear on the top, bottom, and heel in lines. If combining something with the fingers without covering every part of them or wiping them more than once. One puts the left hand under the heel and the right hand on the top of the foot at the toes, drawing the right hand back towards the shin while drawing the left along the bottom of the foot in the opposite direction towards the toes. In wiping the footwear, it is sufficient to wipe any part of their upper surface with which hands from the top of the foot up to the level of the ankle bones. Is not sufficient to only wipe some of the bottom heel side of the foot. So this is the view of the Shafi'i, and this is the view also of the majority of the Muslim scholars. Uh, I would like actually to stop at this point, inshallah, in today's session. I know that most of you have many. Do you like to take another hadith of Hudayfah al-Yaman, or do you like us to stop at this point? I know many of you you have exams, so I don't like to put a burden on you. And I think that the exams. Okay, so if it is, for me, if you refer, okay. So let us actually finish the last hadith of Hudayfah al-Yaman because it's short, inshallah. Wiping over leather socks after urinating. عن حذيفة بن اليمان رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال. Yes, the fa is السببية, exactly. The fa which we mentioned is السببية. فإني أدخلتهما. The reason I don't like you to put them off is that I put them after having the state of ritual and purity. عن حذيفة بن اليمان رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال كنت مع النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فبال وتوضأ ومسح على خفيه. Hudayfah ibn al-Yaman radiallahu ta'ala said, I was in the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He urinated, performed ablution, and wiped over his leather socks. There is another version of this hadith which was provided by Bukhari. It is related that Hudayfa said, it so happened that the Prophet and I were walking together. He went to the rubbish dump of some people that was behind the wall and stood as one of you stands and urinated. I left him, but he beckoned me, so I came back to him and stood at his heels until he finished. I think there is a mistake in the translation of this hadith. It should be he backed me, right? So this is the job of the editors, inshallah. The Virgin of Muslim says that I was with the Prophet ﷺ when he came to rubbish dump of some people. He urinated while standing. While I went aside, he said, come nearer. So I went near to him and I stood by his heels. He then performed ablution and wiped over his leather socks. From this hadith, we understand certain things. On the top of them is, and his saying he urinated while standing. According to this hadith, we have another version of a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ prohibited a person from urinating while standing. But the Prophet ﷺ has been reported in this hadith as doing this practice. We refer to the basic legal precept that we explained before, that when a statement of the Prophet ﷺ is in conflict with his practice, so we understand the prohibition of the Prophet ﷺ to mean what? To mean prohibition, tahrim, or to mean karaha, just mere dislike or reluctance. It's dislike, exactly. So the prohibition of the Prophet ﷺ here, or the forbiddance of the Prophet ﷺ, is interpreted according to the context of another hadith which reported his practice. I mean the hadith of uh, the hadith which we now discuss. So the Prophet ﷺ, the practice of the Prophet ﷺ shows that it's only disliked, it's not prohibited. And the reason of its forbiddance is that the Prophet ﷺ was cautious of whether urine may turn back to a person's clothes while he doesn't recognize this, so he is not permitted to make prayer while having najas on it. He urinated and performed ablution, and he only wiped over his boots. So the leather socks are not removed even when the ablution is nullified by urination. Okay, see here. So urination only invalidated ablution, but it did not invalidate the putting on these leather boots as long as a person didn't remove them. So other invalidators of ablution, including defecation or sleep, do not affect the validity of wiping over the leather socks as long as they haven't been removed. They are only removed if one is in a state of major ritual impurity that necessitates a ritual bath, or the stipulated time period elapsed, because when the time elapses, in this case, a person is supposed to wash the feet. In cases of nullifiers of wudu, yes, it is. This is not qiyas. We cannot say that it is qiyas. But the practice of the prophets, no, there is. In this case, we can say that it is qiyas, exactly. But it hasn't been proved through qiyas, Abu Abdullah, because we have another report from the Prophet ﷺ which explicitly mentioned this. This is the hadith of Safwan ibn Assal al-Muradi radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, in which he said that the Prophet ﷺ permitted us to use the food gear for 3 consecutive nights when we are on a trip, and we don't remove them except we are in a state of janaba. But as for invalidating ablution, urinating or sleeping, the Prophet ﷺ didn't command us to put them off. Okay? Jazakumullah khair. So this is briefly the explanation of this hadith about the food gear and the legal rulings related to this. Please, if you have uh, any questions or any inquiries or any comments, don't hesitate, inshallah, raising them. Abu Abdullah is also saying it's mafhum from those things occurring in 3 days period. The mafhum is mafhum al-adad, exactly, which means by opposite we cannot exceed the 3 consecutive days and nights. And this is the accredited view of the scholars of Sharia, because some scholars, they extended the time to be as much as a person can do, and they relied on a weak hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. But the hadith of Safwan ibn Assal is authentic, and it is explicit in showing up that it is a condition. Now, جزاكم الله خيرا, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower His mercy on you and provide you with tranquility and peace. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.